What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Skywatcher What's Up webcast. We do this every Friday, 10 a.m. Pacific, right here at the Skywatcher USA YouTube channel. We check out everything from what's in the nighttime sky to equipment to helpful tips and tricks. And of course, at the end of the month, we have special guests on to talk about their specialty in the field of astronomy. First off, real quick, before we get going, for those of you who watched last week, our live walkthrough through the Advanced Imaging Conference, we hope you enjoyed it. Thanks for hanging out with us. It was the first time we did that, so it was kind of fun to bring you guys along, and we'll see about doing that at future events. But we appreciate it. If you want to go back and watch that, that is recorded here at the YouTube channel, just like all the other videos there. If you like what you see here, please go and like a video, subscribe, lets us know we're doing a good job, and it makes it worth keeping this whole monster rolling. So, that being said, today is a very special episode because this weekend here in the U.S., it's Memorial Day, where we basically honor all of our veterans and people who have served in the armed forces for the United States military. And through my walkthrough of astronomy, I've met many people who've been in this and have friends who have served in the armed forces, and we've got some of them here today to talk about how astronomy and what astronomy means to them. So we're going to bring them on right now, and welcome, guys. We have Joey Doherty, Charles Bonifiglia, and Brent Phillips, currently serving or veterans. How are you guys doing this morning?
I'm doing good. Thanks.
Let me make sure everyone can hear. If there's any audio, this is the first time I've done it with 3 people. So if there's any audio issues, let us know. But it sounds good to me. So, real quick, I guess just to kind of, I like to ask everyone this, is we'll go one at a time. How did each one of you get into astronomy? I'll start with Joey because you're on the top left of my screen.
Oh, appreciate it. So, funny enough, through my service and through deployments, my wife and I have been like infatuated with space, and it was something that we would always try to do, is like go see the moon each night or as often as possible, to kind of remind each other that we're still connected, we're still in the same world, Earth, no matter how crazy it may have seemed that we were separated, just to connect. And then our first duty station was Las Vegas, and there's no night sky there. Then we were in Germany, and that's overcast most of the time. But when I got to Tucson, that's when I saw the night sky for the first time. And of course, we got a little Orion Star Blast Desobian. And much like everybody else, you point your camera at Orion for the first time, or a cell phone for the first time. You take a short exposure, and then you're hooked right away. So we had that thing for about a year, and we just try to keep our hands steady one night and put our cell phone up. And then that's when Orion came up, and I think it was like a 3-second exposure, and the blues and the reds started popping. I'm like, well, what if we do 20 seconds? What if I had a DSLR? What if we had a bigger scope? And from there, it's like straight onto it. So we've been in it since, and it's been a year.
Downhill spiral.
Yeah, I think it's been a year and 5 months, and it's just a funnel of information coming at us in every direction. So, but we love it. We're addicted. Not stop anytime soon. So
nice. How about you, Charles?
Mine started because I'm in the Navy, so going out to sea, no lights, domes anywhere. So my first experience in astronomy was visual. So we had to stand a lookout watch, at night. And they give us these thing called big eyes. It's like a 100 times zoom binocular. Think like binoculars that are like this big. And just looking up and just seeing the vast amount of stars, and you see these little clusters of everywhere. We would go and look at those, not doing our job, looking for other stuff, of course, but just seeing the amount of stars that are out there that nobody has seen ever. I mean, even looking at the Bortle ones that are in CONUS, the United States, it doesn't compare to what you see when there's absolutely zero light, nowhere, and you just see the Milky Way, just like this band of stars, and it hooked me visually from there. But getting into like the photographic side, that was just recent. I've probably been doing that about 2 years now. Started because I just took what I had from the Milky Way. It's like, let me go see if I can shoot a Milky Way image, and you just hit that 30-second exposure and you see this thing light up. And now you start to see the clusters even more. And it started to, just piqued my interest of like, what is really there? And then, you just start getting bigger telescopes, better cameras, longer exposures. And I'm hooked. I will never stop doing it.
Awesome. And then Brent and I have known each other for a long time. We've done outreach with each other, but Brent, how'd you get started?
I actually got started. I've always been interested in astronomy, but I really hit the floor running after I got out of the military, and I was working over at the Challenger Space Center, and we had a few outreach programs that would come in, and that piqued my interest looking through those telescopes, seeing what was up there, and then I finally bought one. And for me, right off the bat, I found that it was a good way to deal with some PTSD issues because it's just me in the night sky. It was great. And then I made the mistake of buying a T-ring adapter after being warned not to. Bought a T-ring adapter, put my wife's 2400 on it, and took a 30-second exposure of, again, Orion Nebula, because that's everybody's first target. And it was a horrible picture. It was a bunch of purples and blues, but it got me hooked from that point. I've been trying to improve it ever since. And now I go out and, I still find a way to deal with a lot of issues, but now instead of trying to get a nice 30-second image, it's, can I get 60 images that are 3 minutes long? So it's really come a way to help me. And it's an addiction. I now have multiple telescopes depending on what I'm looking for. One is never enough.
Yeah. So being that all three of you have or are currently serving, what are your branches?
So I'm Air Force, transportation in the Air Force.
And I'm Navy, so I'm a naval officer.
And I was in the Marines.
So there you go. That's kind of cool that we have like a collection of different branches all together. So I'm not sure how those branches overlap within each other, or how you guys like work within, if there's like I know there's camaraderie in it all, but I don't know if it's like Air Force sees them as this way and Marines see them as this way, and Navy's that I'm sure
we don't
want
to start that.
At each other.
Yeah,
all
we don't
the
want to start
time.
that.
We all know Navy.
That's brotherly love fighting.
Brent and I will take on Joey because we're in the same department. We're good.
Yeah, thanks. Appreciate it.
Joey's gonna.
I'll just take
have
it.
to call in air support.
18 years. It is what it is.
No, that's awesome. So, I guess for Charles, real quick, did you serve on a carrier or was it a destroyer? Or what did you serve
so I serve on multiple ships. I've been on every platform minus 2 that the Navy has in inventory, except for like submarines. So, I've served on frigates. It's a small ship, a destroyer, small ship, a light carrier, which mainly like services the Marines, helicopters. And I've also been on a carrier servicing the jets that we have. So multitude of items that I can go to.
And then, so those are obviously the naval deployments.
Yeah.
Brent, you've been deployed several times as well.
I've only been deployed to Iraq once.
Okay.
Yeah, it was one time. I was there for the initial invasion, and I was severely wounded on June 23rd. So in about a month will be my what we call a live day. And that's also why I got into telescopes. I lost one of my eyes over there, and nobody would sell me binoculars at 50% off. So I went with a telescope.
More aperture to choose from. And then Joey, you've been deployed several times as well.
I have. So like I mentioned earlier, when we were just talking one-on-one. So I'm in the Air Force, so the chair force they call it. There's jokes for sure, branch to branch love. But because I'm transportation, when I deploy, all my deployments have always been with the Army and Marines. So I've done convoys in Iraq and Afghanistan. I went to the Republic of Georgia and taught the Georgians how to do convoys from my experience. I was lead vehicle, LVC, lead vehicle commander. So my experience has been, different one in the sense, you know, when I come home, there's a disconnect from within my own branch. It's hard to find people that I can relate to day to day because you have, you know, their outlook on their deployments and how tough their deployments are versus, you know, what I've gone through and what Brent's gone through when it goes to going outside the wire. So there's a huge disconnect, and it's pretty lonely as far as day to day. And I actually connect more with people when I'm deployed because, you know, I'm around the Army and Marines and they can understand my perspective on things.
Now, when you guys are, I know Charles kind of mentioned this because you've had the luxury of being able to see the top grade skies that the world can offer. But Joey and Brent, when you were deployed, is the night sky something that, you know, obviously things can get hectic, but, you know, in times where it's quiet and you can just kind of take it in, do you ever remember just looking up and being interested in that? Because what I find really interesting doing outreach is, and Brent will get this, is you meet so many people from so many walks of life in astronomy. And most people have, I mean, Joey, you're talking about your daughters. Kids get really interested in astronomy because it's just something that is almost like woven into us as people. But you can talk to so many people from different walks of life, and everyone has some basic interest in looking up. I mean, even when you're out there doing what you're doing, you ever just take a moment and look up and kind of grounds you?
Yeah, so I made it a habit, no matter what, to try to call the wife. So, you know, I hear stories that people don't talk for several days at a time, but we had a satellite phone, a sat phone, that our convoy commander had under lock and key. And I'd make it a point that even if I was in the middle of nowhere, and I had time, I would pick that sat phone up, climb to the top of my truck to try to get a good signal and stand on top and call out. And, you know, your eyes, you know, end up finding the night sky when you're talking it. And that's where that connection is. Like, oh, did you see the moon tonight? It, you know, looks like a thumbnail. And, you know, you that's that connection. That's how you get centered, like amongst all the chaos. When you feel like you're on a different planet being deployed, that's what centers you, and that's what brings you home and realize like this, we're all under the same sky. It's gonna be okay. I will find you again. And you know, and that's it. You know, my wife's talking about getting a lighthouse tattoo, and I'm possibly getting a ship tattoo because she's my light. I find her, and that's how it is with the night sky. It can definitely oosaw you and bring you in and center you a bit when you look up, if you have that ability to.
Yeah, I noticed when I was there, again, I was there in 03, and you know, there wasn't a lot of time to be able to look up, but you did have a few moments in between digging your fighting hole for the night that you would quickly move from. And I found that there was brief moments where I could actually look up at the night sky, and it's completely dark. It's not, you know, out in the middle of the Pacific dark, but you're away from the area where you do get some nice dark skies, but in the distance you can see the lights flickering, you can see the oil that was on fire, you can hear the gunshots in the far distance. And looking up at certain times, you actually got almost like a tunnel vision, where for a brief moment, everything was just gone. And all you saw were the stars above you, and you can make out the constellations that you knew later would be over the home of where your family was. Because I didn't have that privilege of being able to call home. I actually only got to call home once while I was there, and that was with a satellite phone that I borrowed from a news reporter. And I called my parents home the day before we went out on the operation where I got hit. And it was a way that I would, oddly enough, looking back, I was actually able to say bye to my mom on that. It cost her a ton of money because I had to call collect, and a collect call from Iraq to the United States is a bill that I think if it was any other circumstance, my mom would have killed me.
Yeah.
But yeah, looking up in the night sky in a combat zone, it gave you a momentary moment of peace from everything.
How about you, Joe? I mean, I guess from um I'm sorry, Charles. I guess from your perspective, it's a little different because you're not like in it, like you're not.
Um, not boots on ground, but like a lot of our stories revolve around a lot of the UN sanctions that we have to do at sea. So I have to deal with like the Iranian Guard Navy. So they're a known terrorist organization. At any point, we'll have 50 ships around us, small ships, just going in and out of us. So you look at threat, it's a huge threat for us no matter where we're going to be at in the Persian Gulf is where we're talking about, like Iran, Iraq, Kuwait, all those areas around there. So like Brent, I was there in 2003. I've done 9 deployments there. So one of those deployments was one of the operations that I was doing. We do what's called a visit board search and seizure. Now they don't allow regular Navy, consider me regular Navy. This is during my enlisted time. During regular Navy, we would do opposed boardings. And during these times, it's a heightened situation where you have a 9-man team. We're armed to the teeth, bulletproof vests, and we have to go take down this ship. We don't know what's on this ship. We don't know if they're hostile, but we know that they are violating some sort of UN sanction. In this case, that ship was smuggling oil and guns. Is what we end up finding out. And when you're in the situation and you're young, it's just like, oh man, it's blazing. It's so much fun to do all this stuff. And then I'm sure Brent can attest to this, and Joey's like, but as you get a little bit older, you have the family, and you just start to reflect on all the stuff that you've done. It gets really, really difficult sometimes even to express it. My wife talks about it. I haven't talked to my son about any of this whatsoever. So I just don't know how to vocalize that to him and not scare him when it comes to a lot of stuff. Being in the Gulf is it's trying. It really is. I mean, like we didn't have phone calls, right, when we did it, but it's the back to the operation, like the ship that we ended up boarding, all the doors are locked, so they bolted everything from the inside, so we couldn't get in. We actually had to go to their pilot house at the very top of it, break open their windows, and actually board through there. So, going down in 2-man teams, locked and loaded, you hear little clicks, and you're hypersensitive to everything that's going on around you, and you turn around, you got a rifle sticking in your face. Things, perspective comes real quick when you got stuff going on like that. And, it's okay. We made it out of it. That's fine. But we still have to go out on advanced patrols where they just stick us in this 16-foot boat, and they give us a handheld GPS, and it's like, go up here, wait here, something comes, something doesn't. And, you get the gunfire that people are shooting at us. Like Brent was talking about the oil fields. We see that out at sea as well, because they lit those on fire there. And you're just playing cat and mouse the entire time. And this is over 3 deployments that I did this, and it gets really hectic.
A lot, yeah.
Yeah.
I have to imagine when you guys, see Carl Sagan's pale blue dot, that it probably takes a much deeper meaning to you guys.
Yeah, everything does.
Quote.
Oh yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's pretty trippy.
I feel like a lot of people, probably including myself, we get stuck in the day-to-day and life's troubles and stuff like that. And life is stressful on its own. Joey and I were talking about that before this. You've got your own stuff going on, and quotes like that ring true for everyone. But it's like, I guess because you guys have dealt with a level of humanity that so many people don't actually see, that has to ring deeper of how we should probably work to treat each other better globally.
Oh, yeah, definitely. I mean, one person told me an analogy of like a pen spring, right? So you take apart one of the pens, there's the spring in there, right? As long as you're coiling the spring, right, the tension's going to be there, but it'll always go back to where it needs to be, related to stress. But as soon as you take that and you stretch it out,
other way, yeah,
and then you're stuck. You can never get that spring to be back the way it was. And that's how, I mean, I can probably speak for all 3 of us here. That's how the military trains us to be, is even though we're completely stretched and we have that fine point at the very top, we have to be able to balance everything on that fine point. And if something tips off, oh well, when it comes to that. But it's really difficult. And Joey alluded to coming home. It's just after deployment, you're just, things have changed. Things are going on. You end up in like a stasis pod when you go on deployment, and you're just trying to maintain that connection somehow. And most of the time, you come home and there's like buildings everywhere, and it's like you just missed out on so much. Not just your kids' lives that's going on, but everything that's around you. And tying astronomy to all of this, it's really just looking up and pausing for a moment, reflecting. And it's like, yep, I'm okay. My family's okay. I'm going to make it home.
Mm-hmm. I have to imagine it's kind of like, the movie Contact with Jodie Foster, where they're talking about, oh, when you get in the spaceship and you go light years away, it feels to you like you've only been gone for a minute. But in reality, years have gone by, or, in her case, people are gone, and the life that has changed. And I'm sure it just gets interesting because you're in your world, you're doing what you're meant to do and trained to do, and then you come back to the other world, and then it's just like, oh, well, like you were saying, Charles, things have progressed and changed while you're out.
For me, it was really surprising for me because again, I didn't get any real phone calls home except for that one, and mail was spotty at best because in 03 the logistics was an absolute nightmare on the invasion. We were just moving so quick that the logistics of mail and even things like MREs and water couldn't keep up with us. So we were running low on those. So mail was like a no-show. And so I didn't have any information about what was going on, what was, everything in back home. And when I came home, there was a lot that had changed. Some of my friends had moved away. I had a family member who passed away that I didn't know about. It was a night and day difference from when I left to when I came back. And for me, I'd been in Iraq for several months and then come back, and it was completely different for me back in the States.
Yeah, I think for me, I had a problem with, and I got better as with the deployments, but especially after the first deployment, doing the convoys, is the expectations I set in my head for coming home. You have this downtime, or for me doing convoys, I had a lot of time where I'm just driving and thinking about, what I want to eat when I get home, like what I miss at TV shows and family. And then you envision like stepping off the plane, and you got, wife and kids like running up to you, and there's signs like welcome home. And then you come home and that's not reality. Your kid pushes you away. She's screaming. She doesn't know who you are. You go to get your first meal and they mess up your order, and you're thinking like, this is your job. If I mess up my job, people would die. And there's this ego balance that there's a lot you're trying to balance. There's so much hyper alertness. And, I think that's what broke me and hit that switch to where my mental health went bad, is because you're fighting these internal, not voices, but just what's happening, how you're supposed to be reacting to it, because everybody in the military is trained to be a leader, like that's what they push. They just push leadership on you. So you've got to be careful, like how you react to things, and you're constantly on guard. Like, am I doing this right? Am I talking right? Am I making eye connections? Am I coming off too harsh, too soft? So being in a truck with another guy and just talking about life and talking about like expectations when you get home and stuff like that, and you come home and that's not the reality of it. And then whose problem is that? Is that your problem, or is that other people's problem? And if you can work through that, and my therapist straight up told me, like, the world doesn't owe you anything. And he's like, I know you don't like hearing that, but it's the truth. Like, nobody owes you anything. You've got to figure out, like, today, are you good? And what are you thankful for? And that's a struggle. I mean, every day I wake up pretty dark, not happy, hating life. And then as I get outside and the sun hits me and I start having tasks thrown at me, I can't think. and an idle mind, you know, what they say about that. So
Yeah.
it's all just me, myself, and I versus each other in my head, constantly trying to make people happy and trying to be empathetic to people that have problems. You know, coming home to a wife and giving her the due respect that she held it down when I was gone. Um, and you know, she's a superstar. So it's just a lot to balance. It really is.
Yeah, you've really got to find a new mission when you come back.
Yeah.
And that's what it comes down to. When I started realizing how much astronomy was helping me, I actually started my own outreach, and I went specifically to veteran communities,
Yeah.
the vet center, trying to get them into it. I went to schools, and now my mission is, I'm a teacher, and now I get to share my experiences with my students. They know my entire background. They don't know the gritty details. They don't need to know that.
Yeah.
But when you come into classroom and you're missing one eye, obviously, you've got to lay that elephant out on the room and get that taken care of. And so now I have these students come up to me and they ask me about the military and what branch is right for them, and we'll talk about it. And I have the recruiters come in, and it's nice that now I'm part of that selection process for my students to figure out where they want to go in the military, and get them in the way to be a good leader in the military, understand what it takes from somebody who's been their side. Like you, I've ended up in dark places before, especially the loss of friends due to suicide. One of them was actually somebody who saved my own life, and he ended up taking his own in 2015. And I went to a dark place, and for me, it was astronomy, and it was the astrophotography in particular side of it that really helped me get through that. Because when I was out there and I was looking at the sky and I was doing the photography, the only thing I could think of, and part of the reason why I don't go with an automated system, is keeping the system working. Is it as sharp as it can be? Are my gains where they need to be? Am I tracking right? Can I improve the tracking? There's always that little bit that I have to think about that keeps me away from falling into that dark spot, and it lets me get through that.
Yeah, I mean, you speak on a real good point there, and I think once we all have that mental health problem, and it feels like a loss of control when it comes to everything. I went in a dark spot. I actually tried to commit suicide for me. Good thing my wife was here. But being able to touch a button and I see my mount move, it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It just provides reinforcement for me that yes, I am in control of my own self. I can control the outcome of everything that happens around me. I just needed to decide to do that. So, I mean, I agree with you 100% with that. Astrophotography is a lifesaver. It really is. I mean, I remember I tried to do gardening for a while. So we have a out here, and it's only on the West Coast. We have this health and wellness program. It's part of the Wounded Warrior program.
Yep.
And I remember it was like, hey, go try, focus on one thing that you can. So it's like, okay, I'll go do some gardening. And I did it for 5 hours. My hands were just completely blistered and bleeding just because I just got so hyper focused on one thing. Because Joe, as you stated, it's like you're getting fired from both ends trying to make all these decisions. And it just ramps that stress up completely, and it puts you in a place where you don't want to be. I mean, from when I went from my enlisted side and crossed over to the officer side, I've had a multitude of jobs, and the amount of stress and responsibility just continues to ramp up.
Yep.
And I know you guys have the same issue where you have the we call it the golden child, Kevin. And I was that person, and I'm getting out of the Navy now just because I can't handle all of that anymore. I mean, I look at everybody around me, it's like, you're supposed to be doing this, but I'm doing your job. It's like, and it's just more and more and more. And it's just, how far can they stretch you until you break? There's, one of the jobs I held was, it's called an air defense officer. So my responsibility was for 7,000 people to create this air defense plan if someone were to attack us. And I had to do that every single day during these deployments. It just starts to wear on you so much.
wait, sorry, my mic was muted. So anyway, rewinding that, what I was saying about that is, you kind of hit on it, but that's kind of the topic I was looking for today was how does astronomy bring you that solace, that peace, that grounded place for you? And obviously, Charles, you mentioned it's because you have control over the system, and but I'd be curious to hear from all of you, like, what about it brings you to where you're at now? Because Brent, you started your own outreach program, obviously. Joey, you've got Three Sisters Astronomy, which is exploding.
Yeah, we're trying to do outreach as well.
Yeah. So, but what about that? Like, what deep down in you is why this?
I think for me, it's the realization that what we're looking at are things that happened thousands and millions of years ago. We're seeing things that no longer exist the way that we see them. And that really does put into perspective of how small my own personal issues are. Yes, I have PTSD. Yes, I have all these other issues. But when I look up, there's that solace that, you know what, there are other issues out there. There's stars exploding. There's things that, you know, we still haven't discovered. And the universe is so large and so vast that in the cosmic realm of everything, my problems are almost non-existent in the universe. And that helps me to realize that, okay, now I can move forward, because what I think is a big problem really isn't a big problem.
No, that's big. So how about you, Joey?
So for me, I'm not so much a spiritual person, but that is spiritual to me. So looking at something that's infinite, asking like, what if, you know, what's out there, it's almost unfair to not know. But like I said, it's humbling, it's centering, it's amazing. I don't know. I don't think I've met anybody or pulled anybody over to my scope and showed them something. They're like, yeah. I mean, the mind is just blown. And, you know, even with the moon, you know, just seeing the moon, if you actually look at it through an eyepiece even, and see that 3D globe look, and that's why I respect the observing side of it, showing somebody something through the eyepiece for the first time, seeing the rings, you know, seeing the little, not the little, but, you know, the storm on Jupiter, and then having a live stack pop up, you know, it's just so many different experiences that you can get from it. And seeing like the ISS, every time I get a notification on my phone through my app that the ISS is flying over, I look at to see like the trajectory of like how it's going to go over or the orbit in which it's going to go over. And all the kids and I run out and look at it, and it just never gets old because there's people on that thing. They're there. What are they doing right now? Are they sleeping? Are they, you know, it's endless imagination. It's endless what ifs. And it's just a mystery. It's magic. It's a magic for not just kids, for adults.
Go ahead, Brent.
I like to call it the wow factor. I think I've talked with you on several outreach programs about that, Kevin. And the wow factor is somebody who comes up to the eyepiece and you physically see their jaw drop when they look through it. And one of the most memorable moments I had on one of my programs is I had an 80-year-old woman who came up to my eyepiece, and I was on Saturn. And, you know, you do this long enough and you start taking certain targets for granted, you know, Saturn you take for granted, Jupiter, Orion, things like that. But she looked at Saturn and actually started to cry because she was 80 years old, and it was the first time she had ever seen Saturn with her own eyes that wasn't in a book. And it's like, okay, that's why I do these outreaches. It's for that wow factor.
Well, that's what's kind of cool, because it's, you know, you guys have had so many experiences in your life that so many people won't ever see. Some of those good, some of those bad. But all of you have kids. You've all shown them something through your telescope, and they've probably been like, that's really cool. But for that like brief moment, it's like you got to expand someone's universe for them. You helped someone discover something they didn't know was there before. So, and that's something I really like with outreach, but it's something that gets taken for granted a little bit, especially when you do it a lot. But like Brent said, every now and again you get someone where it's just like, oh yeah, like, but you took the time. Maybe your day was just total trash and you're going through it, but you go out there, set it up, you're not into it, and someone comes up to that, and you just opened up someone's mind to something they may have not even considered they would ever get to see. But you were the one that was able to gift that to somebody.
Yeah, I think it really provides a connection that's missing. I mean, we're all in our own, tunnel vision, doing our thing that we have to do daily. But for that one brief moment, we connect two people together or connect multiple people together, and it shows exactly how we're supposed to be with each other. I'll go outside every night and I'll look up, and I just get immense joy because I know what's out there. I know, of all the images that I've taken, that's what I see now. I don't see this dark canvas. I don't see just specks of stars everywhere. I see a colorful mural of what's actually out there, and expressing that to people and like showing them these images that we take. And people are just like, well, this isn't real. It's like, no, it's absolutely real. And you slew your telescope to it. It may look like a gray blob for us, but that's what it is. And that's where it is right there.
Yeah, I think it's cool for you, Charles. It's like you've gotten to sail all across the world. You've sailed on all these seas and seen parts of the world. But now, through your telescope, you are sailing on the most immense ocean that and your images that you capture, and we all capture these images. It's like you are bringing back, like, here is my proof of what I've seen in the nighttime sky. Even if you can't see it or imagine it, like, look at it through my eyes, and this is my universe, and you get to share that with people. It's pretty awesome.
Amazing. Yeah, some of the times when we go out, so just previously, probably like a couple months ago, I would take people out on tours on the ship that I was on, and I have the green laser light. We'd be off the coast of LA, so you can see the light dome there, but you face west, and I'll just start giving like little star tours of what's around. And Joe, you talk about the ISS. When you see the ISS and pitch dark skies, Bortle 1 skies, it's like the thing's on fire. It is reflected so much. It's just moving by, and people are looking at it. It's like, oh, there's a UFO. I'm like, no, let's talk about something real quick. This is this is the ISS. And like, well, what's that? And you get to have this dialogue with them, and you get to open up their mind to something that's completely different from what they're used to. And it's a good conversation to have with people. It just takes their viewpoint and expands it into something that I think everybody needs right now.
But actually, brings up,
especially when you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead. So.
I was just going to say, especially when you go out there with the live stack programs, and you show somebody a piece of the sky, like where the Horsehead Nebula is at, and you're like, they're looking, and all they see are stars. But then you look over at the live stack of the same target, and there's this gorgeous nebula there that they can't see with their own eyes. And it's like, look, this is really up there. You might not be able to see it, but it's there. And some people, it's just the amount of amazement they get from that is incredible.
Oh yeah, I'm sure you guys have the same thing. Every time I get my 10-minute exposure is done and I see it, I'm zooming in on everything, because it's just, even though I may have taken that image before, there's something new that I didn't see before, some small little detail. And it's like I'm a kid again, because my son, he feeds off my enthusiasm, my joy that I get from this. My wife, she wants to see the finished image, but I'm still over there. It's like, look at this black and white and how awesome this is.
No, and I have to imagine, I know exactly that feeling. I can relate to on that, where it's like you're watching the stupid exposure bar coming up, and then it's like, here it comes. So then it pops up, and you're just like, yes, there it is, pinpoint stars. But I have to imagine that's also pretty cool, because it's, PTSD and all that stuff. You get to that point where it's like, I'm in this weird spot. But astrophotography has a good way of kind of proving that point, where it's like, yeah, it's dark right now, but just wait till it's done.
Yeah.
Like, give yourself a minute, because in a minute you're gonna see what light is actually there. Even in the darkest point of space, there's some kind of light that you can pull out of that.
Yeah,
So,
that's a good perspective for all of us.
but so because there's three of you, we do questions at the end of the webcast, and we're at that 20-minute mark. So for those of you who are watching, now's the time to do it. But we're gonna start a little early because there are three of you, and you guys have really good answers for a lot of it. First question is, how did astronomy help you readjust to civilian life? Or let's see, or for those of you who are still active, how does it help you adjust back to civilian life?
I think with that one, I mean, I'll speak to that. I mean, for me, I mean, I do a small outreach with just like my neighborhood area. It's allowing me to, one, we all have different speak in the military, right? So for me, you look at a wall, I say bulkhead, right? It allows me to remember how to actually talk to people in their own speak, and not use all these, we use acronyms, everything in the military. It allows me to actually become normal again, because you're in the military so long, you become trained, you get raised in the military, so you are taught and you've grown up in the military. You lose a sense of what it means to be normal. So allowing me to actually talk to people and in their own speak, and even it's best when I have like little kids come up, because then I have to really take my my lexicon down to their level, and it allows me just to be able to take the uniform off for a little bit and be a normal person.
Yeah, 100%. When you get out, you'll notice veterans always hang out with other veterans, because that's who we understand. That's who we communicate best with. Doing this outreach program, you're forced to be in a situation where you're talking with people that aren't always veterans, and it opens it up. It makes you feel a little bit more comfortable talking with, non-veteran community. So yeah, I agree 100% with you on that it allows you to take that uniform off for a minute.
For me, with my anxiety, it forces me to interact with people. I mean, I took the entire day off today just for this, because I knew the anxiety going into it is going to make me feel like I just ran a marathon when I'm done with it. And as happy and excited as I am, and I know this is important to do, and it brings me joy getting here, the anxiety built up going into it is what it kills me. So I can't just be at my telescope by myself without sharing this. I have to call the kids. I have to call the wife. I have to try to go live and hold my cell phone up. I want to experience this with other people, and I want to hit that next tier where it's not just astrophotographers. The community is amazing. I love everybody in it. I consider them more family than my own family. And then being, stationed out here, we have no family locally at all. There's nobody on the street for us. So I want to hit that next year where I'm bringing civilians in and saying, look at this world. This is not make believe. This is not CGI. This is look through the eyepiece. Now come over here. Now watch this live stack pop up and blow people's minds and inspire more people to look up, because I think it is important to center everybody off of the night sky. It's hard to get mad unless you got a problem with your equipment. When you're looking at a sea of stars and you're just saying, like, this is infinite. Every star that you see could possibly have a planet orbiting it. It is completely, you cannot comprehend that. You cannot, you can't get bored with that. So for me, tying in the civilian aspect of it, I've got to find a way to tap into that, to pull people in, sidewalk pop-ups, parking lot pop-ups, virtual star parties, doing it for kids, doing it with people with mental health issues, doing it on base while I still have access to the base. that's what it's about. And with my anxiety, it's not about having 100 people around me. It's about, small controlled groups, just, like 2 scopes, and the wife and kids are interacting with people. And while I'm showing people stuff, I'm also learning, because I don't know anything about astronomy. I'm going backwards. I'm trying to play catch up with processing, with everything, with astronomy, with constellations. And from somebody that was living out of their car, homeless, joining the military, the education piece is not there, and I'm trying my best to catch up. So for me, that's the connection to the civilian sector.
Nice. Let's see. A lot of questions today. One we're gonna leave till the end because it'll make all of you laugh. Specific skills from the military training or experience that you use in astronomy, or vice versa.
We in the Navy, we have to learn celestial navigation. So finding the objects in the night skies was relatively easy for me. That's about it. That's all I got for that.
I was military police, so I got nothing. Yeah.
I got something. So I'm actually upset with myself because Deep Sky dude, he's an astrophotographer, and he's pretty awesome. But he does observation and live streams with NVGs, night vision goggles, and I'm kicking myself in the head. I'm like, what? We're busy playing around with each other with the NVGs, playing pranks on each other and stuff. Back when I was deployed, I was like, imagine if I would have just looked up with those things. You know what I mean?
Now you got to spend $5,000 to get that experience.
I know. And imagine if I, accidentally lost a pair and somehow I actually found them when I came back home. But
oh no,
never know.
But yeah. It just that's the only thing I'm like. I see his live streams all the time, and I'm just like, man, why didn't I look up? I was so busy looking forward and hitting people in the face with lasers and stuff and trying to blind them and playing pranks on each other. But
you had the chance, Joey. You had the chance.
Would have
had a chance.
Let's see. This one might be more for Charles. You kind of just touched on this one. When I was in, we did land nav. This is in the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
We did use a little of the night sky for finding the North Star. But are they pushing more training for astronomy these days for land nav or navigation in general?
I'd have to defer that one to Brent. For the Navy side, we actually went away from celestial nav for about 10 years, and just recently, within the past, I'd say 5 years, anybody that stands a bridge watch where we're actually controlling the ship is required to have a class in celestial navigation now, just in case, because there's I can't get into the reason why we do that now, but we do that now for certain reasons, just in case we lose our satellites that are telling us where our GPS is actually at.
Nice.
Yeah, we didn't do a lot of that celestial navigation. We got basic training on it, on how to find the North Star so that we could find our latitude of where we are.
Mm-hmm.
But outside of that, we got no training on it.
Next question. Have you done any VA oriented outreach?
No, not yet. I have not.
Not yet.
I have. I've done a couple of solar events for the Vet Center in Mesa, for the veterans they have there. And then I've also done a couple of outreach programs for other veteran organizations, such as like Honor House, which is out here in Phoenix, Arizona, and things like that. But yeah, I've done a few of them for the veteran community. Do them at a different location though. When I did an outreach for Honor House, I actually did it at a bar. That was interesting.
Hey, it opens up the mind. Did it for the Greeks.
Love you.
They made all those constellations, so worked for them. So mental lubrication is what I like to call alcohol. So you go either way with that. So does the military remind them of does this hobby remind them of anything they do in their military work?
No, this is completely opposite from anything that I've done, and I think that's a big reason why I fell into astrophotography, because I wanted something completely different. I mean, I'm so used to the rigor of getting up at, 5 o'clock, going home at, 6 p.m., 7 p.m., because it's 12, 13-hour days for us. And I just want to just shed all of that. Yes, I'll take all the experiences I kept and all the people that I have there. You'll be shocked at like the camaraderie that is built within that community that we're all part of. But once you're done, you want to just, you really just want to get away from it. I mean, you get the people that go right back into some kind of contractor job, and it's not the same when it comes to that. And doing astrophotography, it allows me to have that avenue of escape that just continues to feed me, and I just keep going down that path.
Yeah. Let's see. Did any of you want to add anything to that, or you
Just
guys...
the Space Force jokes aren't funny anymore.
Oh,
for me.
yeah, well,
Star Trek.
we're actually
The
working
Air
with.
Force is just happy that there's somebody that gets picked on more than them now.
Yeah,
exactly.
Oh, no. It's the outreach group I'm working with now. They have I forgot what she is, but she is part of Space Force. So she comes in and talks and presents about that too. But I am not going to say anything beyond that because it is not my place to say anything beyond that. I leave that with these gentlemen right here. That's where that will end. Okay. Here's the one that everybody wants to know. I'll make sure I didn't miss any of the... Oh, wait, here's some... I'm sorry. This is for Brent. Being a former Marine Corps mortarman, you'll know what this means. 034181s. Doing a polar alignment on an EQ6R with the Skyguider Pro reminds me of sighting in a gun. I didn't know if you related to any of that, but...
Yeah, but I've actually moved away from doing manual polar alignments like that, and I started doing the assisted polar aligns because no matter how good I was at polar alignment, there are programs out there that are a million times better than I am, and a lot of my trails, my star trails, started to disappear when I did that. But yeah,
it's pole master.
It is very similar to sighting in.
Let's see. Okay, here's the one everybody wants to know about. Any thoughts on supposed UFO sightings while deployed?
So the Navy, we see all kinds of stuff out there. We don't know what it is. A lot of the times, personal experience, I've never seen anything. Other lookouts that we end up having, they claim to see things, not flashing lights. They're out there. A lot of the times we see now is we're getting a lot of drones that are coming out, like the little DJIs that are coming out. A lot of ships will have those, and it's a real big threat for us, unfortunately. But I think a lot of the things are explainable. On the carrier, we have this area called Civic. That's where the pilots come in and they download all their stuff. There is stuff on some of their in-flight cameras that they have, but we don't ever get to see it.
Yeah, I think when you're here long enough doing this, you start to learn what just about everything is. Like I remember when I first started in this hobby and I started looking up, what satellites look like. They're the steady lights. But the first time I saw a tumbler, that completely threw me off. I was asking around, I'm like, what is this? And a tumbler is nothing more than a piece of space junk that's tumbling and catching the light. It's got the path of a satellite. It's the speed of a satellite. It's just flashing. So, yeah, I think at the end of the day, everything ends up with an answer.
I just want to believe. I mean, I know. I see. I try to put these things together, but it always just ends up being satellites or something like you said, like the tumblers but yeah, man, one day would love to just look up and be like, I see one.
I see it.
And it's on my camera. But yeah.
Okay, so this will be the last question because we all have to talk about this. What's your favorite piece of equipment?
Oh, mine's the autofocuser. It allows me to sleep at night and I can just set it and forget it.
My favorite, a favorite piece of equipment, I actually have two of them, to tell you the truth. I've got a solar scope, a 90 millimeter solar scope that I absolutely love, being able to look at the sun. But then I think my favorite nighttime scope is my 1100 8 edge that I have. To me, that's a great platform. It's 3 focal lengths in one, and I absolutely love using all 3 of them.
I was about to hit you because I thought you were about to say you got an AP 1100. It's like, when were you going to tell me that happened?
No, not yet.
Soon, someday.
So for me, it's hard because I have loyalty to Adama. That's the name of my telescope. Adama, and lore is the guide scope from Battlestar Galactica. It's the first scope that got us that we started astrophotography with. I mean, we took the picture with our Orion Star Blast, but when we made the T-ring and DSLR connection, it was on that thing. But the most beneficial game changer would have to be the mount, equatorial mount versus the fork mount that we had, and of course the Skywatcher EQ6R Pro.
That is a great mount. That's what I'm using.
And that to me was that's a game changer. I mean, you talk about exposure times, you talk about everything. I mean, you could put a cell phone on piggyback a cell phone off, and you're going to get something, just something taken care of balancing. And as you go along, then you're like, oh, guiding, now that's another game changer. But when you're talking about it, the most important piece of equipment to me is the mount, because I could put something from Toys R Us. Well, those are closed, but I could put, a $20 scope on there and do a long exposure. I'm going to get something out of it. So the telescope is secondary to me, to the mount itself.
Yeah, 3 most important things in astrophotography: the mount, and the mount. So
basically, yeah.
And the EQ6R is a great mount. I think I can speak for every single one of us that we're all drooling over that EQ8, though.
Oh, I wish. Yeah.
I think
I have
one,
Brent. If you want to drive over here and borrow it for a while, let's sit.
Hey, it's summer. I will come down there and borrow that.
Make sure, because the mount is black, make sure you cover it up during the day, or you're gonna cauterize yourself.
I've got a dome.
Oh well, I don't. Good for
Lucky.
you.
I can't put one of those on base. That's the next thing I want.
Just dig that.
Yeah, wait till I retire.
What the heck is Joey building on the base? Nothing. Just don't ask. Just keep going.
Don't worry about it.
It's classified. So, awesome. Well, that pretty much wraps up our hour. Thank you to all 3 of you for sharing a lot of things that obviously went very deep. I appreciate you taking the time out of your days to hang out with us and being a part of this. Thank you for your service. Charles, congratulations. You are 4 days away from being done. So
it's exciting.
Congratulations.
Congratulations on that.
Thanks.
But it is really a privilege to talk to all 3 of you. Joey, I hope to actually get to meet you because you're 2 hours away. So,
absolutely. Yeah.
Charles, I will someday we'll be in San Diego and we'll track you down. But I know you guys have a lot of brotherhood within the military, but I've met some of the most amazing people in astronomy as well. I hope that astronomy gives you some kind of connection with other people, and it's a privilege to be able to talk to you guys about gear and hang out and have that camaraderie as well.
Can I just say one thing real quick?
Go for it.
So just really important that this is Memorial Day. It's not Veterans Day. It's not so much about, the people that are serving, but it's about the people that we've lost. And, rest in peace. We miss everybody that we've lost along the way. So.
Yes, thanks for clarifying. I messed up.
No, you're good. Yeah,
apologize
I appreciate
earlier, but thanks for clarifying that. It comes better from you anyway. So.
Nah, it happens. I don't know one person that really gets offended by it.
No, not at all. So
where you're completely understanding of it.
All right, guys. Well, I'll let you get to your weekend. There's no moon you should go out and shoot some freaking pictures this weekend, because you know
Absolutely.
Charles and Joey and Brent are probably gonna hop on that. So chop chop. So
Yeah.
they can do it. You should be too. Anyway, thanks very much, guys. Have a great weekend, and I will hopefully chat to you guys here soon. And for the rest of you who are watching, clear skies. Have a great weekend, and be thankful for what you got. So clear skies. See ya. Bye.
Have a good one.